Real Estate Group. You'll notice we have a little bit of a lighter room because many people, and including me soon, are down at the bake sale buying baked goods that they'll be bringing up soon. Be nice to have a pop table right next to the baked goods, but just kidding. We'll get that later. That's called good marketing for the future product. Anyway, so we got a lot of great things. We have a broker panel today that we're going to talk about the market way more in depth than we did the last 2 weeks ago when we had one. And I've got some questions to try to stump them. And then we're going to talk about some marketing plans and things that you should be looking at as an agent here in this crazy market that we're in. And we've brought together our great experts for that. So first off, let's give her a big round of applause. Not only that, let's give her a standing ovation. Let's give it up for Myra with Prosperity. Come on, stand up for Myra. Stand up for Myra. Woo! She gets a little nervous.
Just a little bit, not that much. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Today, I wanted to go over a buy down. I know we've talked about it in the past, but I mean, what is it, right? Like, it was hard for me to understand what it was at first. We always hear about buying down interest rates and stuff like that. But a buy down, what that means is, I put up an example here. And basically, you do a buy down for, you can do it for 3 years, 2 years. This example that I have up here is based on a loan amount of $550,000 and a rate of 7%, which, you know, we are seeing today. So if the buyer was to do a 3-2-1 buy down, that would mean the first year of mortgage payments would be 3% lower than what they actually qualified for. So the first year would be based off of 4% interest. The second year jumps up to 5%. The third year jumps up to 6%, and then the final year and beyond is going to be the 7% that they qualified for the remainder of the payments. But let's just say a year from now or 2 years from now, our interest rates go down. They can actually refinance this, and a portion of that money, because it is prorated, it gets they get it back. So on this example, it would actually cost. So this is only seller paid also. So right now the market, how we're switching to be a buyer's market, this is a time where something like this would actually come in handy. When it's a seller's market, obviously this would never happen. But this specific example for a 3-2-1 buy down, it would be $25,219. So instead of the seller reducing the purchase price by $25,000 to try and get an offer made, they would contribute this to the buyer so that this can happen. If it was a 2-1 buy down, now you're looking at just around $12,000 because it would be this $8,400 plus this $4,300. So a 2-1 buy down might be more if the buyer's doing like a 5% down or a 3% down. That might be more realistic than actually $25,000. But both options are there. So if the buyer was to do a 7% interest rate, that payment would be $3,750 approximately. But for that first year, when the rate is 4%, their payment will only be about $2,800. So that's a big difference. And again, if they refinance after 1 year, they get back that $12,000 because it's prorated. So I mean, it's an awesome deal, especially in this market. Did you guys have any questions?
Does everyone understand what you're saying when the seller would offer this as a marketing plan for their property to be able to buy that down? And so they do have some verbiage and stuff that you have to put in the listing agreement the seller would have to know and agree with. All those things would have to happen.
Yeah, it's almost like a hack, right? How to get their mortgage payment lower. They still have to qualify based on the full interest of 7%, but it's still just a unique way to get their payment down lower for a few years or hopefully wait for those interest rates to drop.
So are they ever locked into the loan if they wanted to sell after the first year before the 7% triggers, or
They're not locked in.
They're locked. Okay.
Is it assumable or transferable?
It would depend on the actual investor, so we would have to look into that. Yeah.
2 things. One, the money, the buy down amount coming from the seller, would that come from the proceeds or would it have to come out of the bank account?
It could come out of the proceeds.
Okay. Second, is this something I could go ahead and display on agent and or public as well?
Yeah, we can get a flyer put together for you.
On the listing.
Yeah, we're just coming out with it now. So if you just message me through the Signature app, we'll get something together and then I can send that to you.
Okay.
Something else to remember though is, you don't,
The seller doesn't have to actually offer this. I mean, as a buyer's agent, you can ask for this too. So there's two ways to do it. It can be a piece to help you market your property, or it can be a piece to help you get the buyer into a property.
Let's give it up to Meyer one more time.
Can I say something about this 321 buy down?
Please.
You know, there's really nothing new under the sun. In the late 80s, the early 90s, when the interest rates were like 16%, 17%. I sold half of Sunrise Mountain to the military as new construction, and the builders were all doing 321 buy downs then. I mean, you go to Sunrise Mountain, you're doing a VA loan, you get an automatic 321 buy down. And then that kind of worked out well for them, because at the end of the third year, they were moving on. So nothing new under the sun.
That's a great point. So one of the things we're going to talk about today, and the first topic is actually about this market from a buyer perspective. And so what we've talked about over and over and over is that nothing ever stays the same in real estate, and nothing will ever be the same again, right? So everything happens on a cycle, but it doesn't happen in the same way, affecting the same place, but it always comes back around. And so Janet's mentioned a few times to Todd and Tom and Brandon and myself that we've seen this stuff before, and it's in markets like this where people get extremely creative on new things they're going to do, that the most money can be made for those that are willing to learn the most about how the market's working and tips and tricks of the trade. So first question I have for my illustrious panel, and I'm going to ask each and every one of you this question, so start thinking about your answers now. What do you see happening in this market when it comes to the last quarter of 2022? What do you see happening from a buyer perspective in the market for the end of the year? Who wants to go first?
That's why he's the leader.
that's why you're the older.
More of the same.
More of the same.
I think you're gonna see this market continue through the rest of this year, for sure. I also think we'll see still a slight more decrease in the median sales price, as things continue to adjust and the inventory grows. Pricing is done by supply and demand. Currently, the median sales price is $450,000. It's been that for the last 2 months, but we were at a high of 483. And so I think we're gonna see more of this thing. Not a bad market, you just have to continue to work. And now would be the time to push strong. October's here, it's the time to really start working on your business plan for next year and pushing forward, so more of the same.
Wait, while you're answering that question, in the context of a buyer specifically, when you say more of the same, what do you feel that means for a
Okay,
buyer?
so listen to the questions, what he's saying.
Yes, like the real estate example.
For the buyers, I think there's going to be inventory, there's selection, there's choices. It wasn't the same, you know, obviously at the beginning of this year, they had no choices, they were settling for homes. And if you really talk to a lot of buyers that bought homes recently, I mean, there was a survey recently that just said most of them are very unhappy with something in their home. And so I think you're going to have a lot more opportunity. Some people will be priced out of the market a little bit, have to maybe settle for price-wise, but they'll have more options.
Great point, great point.
Say the same.
Oh, want me to go?
If you want to,
Look, let's think about this mentally, right? Everybody's scared of the interest rate, and until the folks start getting their heads wrapped around the fact that it's gonna be 6, 7, 8% interest rate, they're gonna sit on the sideline. So it's your job to figure out how to get them through that to be able to buy a house, right? Whether it be a buy down, whether it's explaining the fact that I can get you a home cheaper today than you could 6 months ago when the interest rates were 3%. If I could show you that, would you be willing to go out and buy a house? So you gotta help them get over their own hurdle of taking that step, because I wanna say something bad, the mind screw it's huge, and that's what we gotta get through.
So just so I can paraphrase this like the RJ does with your interviews, what you're saying is that it can always get way worse for the buyer. So we saw 2 months ago where rates were starting to tick up, and 5% seemed like it was the mountain decline, and now we're at 7%. and you're saying there's a chance that they don't do it now, they could be at 10.
Yeah.
Or there's a chance that you could get them back to that with some type of buy down.
And let's understand why the interest rates are rising, right? To slow down the market and sort of steer us well, and what's gonna happen is they're gonna overshoot, they always do, right? And we go into recession, and how do you fix a recession other than lowering interest rates? So they've gotta raise them to be able to lower them, but it's gonna be a bit of an issue, and I know the big wonder is when exactly is that trigger point from raising interest rates to lowering them, right? If we all knew that number, when that was gonna happen, we'd all be millionaires. So that's the key, and having to explain to them that the next thing that's gonna happen is recession, right? 7 out of the last 8 recessions, home prices went up. Only during the big one did the pricing of homes go down. So a recession is not bad for a housing market, but nobody else knows that.
You're gonna have to,
Instead of just taking orders and buyers calling you you're going to have to talk and sell people on the opportunity to buy a home. You're gonna have to work a little bit harder.
Yeah, find out why they wanna do what they wanna do, and why they're out.
Because rent's 100% interest rate, I get it.
Oh, that's it, how's mine? I'm done.
Oh, I can see the guys.
No, so I was gonna say that, though, I mean, if you're not sharing with people that the rent they pay every month is 100% interest, then you can't help them get over their mind screw, as Tom calls it, right? I mean, so, here's what I think.
Mindset, how's that?
Okay, their bad mindset, right? So I think what's gonna happen is, Brandon's right, it's gonna stay about the same, it's gonna stay pretty flat. By the way, that's nothing new. Traditionally, from the day school goes in until mid-February-ish, the market stays fairly flat. It doesn't do much. It might drop a little, it might go up a little. I see a tick up in December typically, but it's gonna stay pretty flat. I think what you have to have people understand is they're in a good position to buy it for a couple of reasons. One is, there's a lot of inventory, there's a lot to pick from, there's a lot to look at, there's a lot to go out and choose from. So they're gonna get into a house that they like a little bit more than they probably did before. Interest rates are not gonna go down in any foreseeable future unless they announce a recession, which they've been holding off announcing for 7 or 8 months now. If they announce the recession at the beginning of next year, the last 6 recessions, interest rates have fallen in the last 6, if you go do the research. So interest rates would come down, but they've only come down like 1.5%. It's not like they've cut in half. It's not like they've gone down to 3%. That takes a lot of time and a certain kind of economy, that's the word, yeah. So if they get in today and the recession starts next year, they're still going to be ahead because we're still seeing appreciation on homes, right? I mean, the fear is that, the market's going to crash and the house I bought for $400,000 is going to be worth $100,000. That's only happened one time in my life. I'm an old guy, okay, so I've been around a while, and I've only seen that happen one time, and it's the only one recession that housing prices actually dropped in. So I don't really see a downside of buying now except for the interest rate, and the bottom line is that's not going to change. So they just have to get over the fact that the interest rate's going to be what it is, and get creative, do something creative. This 3-to-1
I want
is pretty
to
good.
clear something up that's asked online right now, and they said explain Tom how rates, how you could buy down that rate and make that difference. And so to Myra's program, you were able to move the money around where it's placed. So buying the house at a lesser price and using the money that you saved on that price difference, because the comps are still higher than what the houses are starting to sell for. If you guys have looked at that in some ways, taking that money and moving it to pay the interest rate down is the crux of the program. And yes, you're paying it.
I think the thing to point out is that before you were paying $20,000 or $30,000 above list price.
Yes.
Just take that $20,000 or $30,000 and pay them the interest rate. What's the difference?
Yeah.
There's no difference. You're still spending the
It feels
money.
better when it comes from their pocket versus mine.
And in today's market, it can, and that's a difference from the last market from 4 months ago. There isn't a seller in the world that was going to pay down your interest rate for you.
Yeah.
But in today's market, the value is the seller may take that 20 or 30 grand, and they may pay down your interest rate for
And
you.
we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. We're going to talk about a assumptions and owner carries where you can have that same value in markets. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so I was reading an article in mid-2023 about Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. They were saying that the interest rate, according to their chart and what we know, it should be able to drop in the mid-4s. Should we take that into account, or should we just do what we do? I don't know. I don't know if I should even take that seriously.
I wouldn't go predicting that to your clients, and I wouldn't be talking to people, hey, just wait till 2023 and buy a home at 4%. What I would say is interest rates fluctuate. They go up and they go down. And what I have seen in the past is rates that go up do come down and people do refinance. That's why we have a refinance boom and a refinance market. You're not married to this rate forever, you know? And so the thing is, you've got to get in. And rates come down, prices go up, different things happen, so you got to go when you go. But yes, what Todd's saying, typically when there's a recession, they do what? They lower interest rates to try to stimulate the economy, get people buying again.
Right.
And so, and what Tom said is they're going to overshoot it. They're going to raise rates until the economy comes to a screeching stop, and then they're going to have to stimulate it again.
The only thing I'll tell you on that, and this is horrible for me to say, be careful what you promote that companies say, and even government agencies, because Enron posted great financials until we found out they were fake.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I've come to find out is that some of these entities are trying to put out good press for a period of time to drum up opportunity and action. But you never know what's behind it all.
So it's a sales tactic.
It could be. And so the whole crux of being a realtor is that you're the source of information, not the proponent of it, right?
I'll
You're
tell you,
bringing
it's the
forward.
guy that wrote the article's opportunity to get his 15 minutes of fame.
Sure.
I mean, maybe Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have said something like that, and then they twist it. So yeah, be very careful with, I would want to look at who wrote the article, I would want to know what sources they quoted. We expect that, I mean, I personally, this is not company-wide, this is me personally, I think they'll announce a recession after the first of the year. I believe that interest rates will creep down a little bit at that point. But if I do the math, and I do a lot of math, if I buy today and I gain whatever equity I'm going to gain in February, March, and April of next year when interest rates start to come down, I'm still ahead. And I can refinance then, and I've got the house at a lower price than how prices are probably going to start going back up next summer again. I mean, if you look at the numbers, you'll see that. Does anybody know what month we typically close the most homes? Not the most. What month of the year in Las Vegas do we get the biggest gain in closings? I mean, the month before we were here and the next month it's up here.
March.
Yeah, it's March, which is crazy to think, right? Like, because everyone always says, well, the market's hot June, July, and August. Well, the market's really hot in March, April, and May, and then in June, July, and August, we start to see it kind of dive off a little bit. And so that's probably what's going to happen. It's traditionally happened in the past, and that's why it's competitive to buy today, because you can get that equity gain over the time.
Let me add one more thing.
It's Janet's turn next,
Jan.
so after you have it.
No, wait. Okay, Todd said a lot of things that I was going to say.
I was reading your notes.
But I agree with basically everything. Now, for years, I haven't looked at it in years, but Homes Illustrated had a page in their magazine where they showed you the number of closings over the past year. And everybody up here is right. Basically, the market starts to pick up the end of February. March is crazy, April's crazy, May's crazy. School's out and it slows down and it gets slower and slower. We're now approaching the time when it's really the slowest. Everybody's like, oh, Christmas is coming up, oh, we don't want to make it in the middle of the school year, whatever. But now's the time for you to go to work. But here's the thing for the buyers. In the past couple of years, your buyers have probably spent one day, not counting on their computer, actually looking at homes and going, oh, we got to write an offer on this one right now. They're not going to be doing that now. They're going to be taking their time. And a good technique for buyers is if they think they want to rent, show them some rentals and then show them properties for sale where their monthly payment would be less than it is now. I did this for years back in the late 80s, early 90s with military, they're like, well, we want to rent. And I would never turn down a military room. And we spend a day and a half looking at rentals, and they're like, well, we really don't think we can buy. These houses are all awful, we don't want to live in this. Do you think we could qualify because we still own our house in South Carolina? Well, let's go talk to a lender. And every single one of them ended up buying because they didn't like the junk that was out there for rent or the rental price when they could own and have the tax deduction. So you may be spending more than a day with your buyer. You may be spending a full week with them, or 2 weeks, or if they're just available on the weekend. The other thing too that I've noticed is the uptick in open houses for buyers to just wander through. So you need to be educating your buyers. You see an open house, don't go in, call me, I'll call the agent, I'll come meet you, whatever. But Saturday I was going somewhere and I was driving on Hualapai, and I think it was the intersection of Hualapai and Desert Inn. There were 6 different open house signs.
All 20 different directions.
Well, they were from 6 different
Look, it's been minutes.
companies. There were more than 6 signs, but I sat there at the red light and went, amazing, 6 different companies. So you're gonna have to work a lot harder, and you can tell them my story. I bought a house brand new at the lakes in '88. The interest rate was 10%, didn't bat an eye. Okay, that's down from where I started at 16 or 17%. And then when the interest rate dropped to 8, I refinanced. And then lo and behold, I still own the house and it dropped to 6. I refinanced. And by the time I sold that house, my interest rate was 4%. So marry the house, date the rate.
So I'll ask all of you, Janet made a great point. What is the American dream?
Own a house.
To own a house? Is it to own a house at any cost?
No, it's not to pay taxes.
Vote for Tom, folks. No, I will say that makes a lot of points because I have had clients who said that their only goal was to buy a home so that their family could live in that home for the next 2 or 3 generations. And they didn't care what it cost, but that was their dream to make it happen. And so this always comes back to the fact that I am a sales agent and I have to listen to what my client's motivation is to buy, because in any market with any inventory, there's always a buyer and there's always a seller, and there always will be.
Let me also say that if you're coming across a buyer in today's market, they're serious buyers, they're motivated buyers. They're past the interest rate issue, they've wrapped their head around that, and those are the buyers that you're looking for. They're the motivated ones that want to go look and buy. If they've gotten pre-qual, they don't care about the rate. They're not as mad about the rate as you guys are, and so take them out, show them a house, sell them a house. That's, you have to remember.
So we'll start with you on this one, Todd, because this is the crux of why I asked this question. So with this market that we're in, we always see a series of issues that come up from high interest rates, from the large amount of inventory. What are the broker issues that we're seeing at the company from this market that we're in that are happening over and over and over? And what can the agents learn not to do from them? Want me to go first?
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead. I can't think of a broker, I don't have any.
You'll think of it after I say it too.
Go ahead.
Okay, so one of the first things
I knew it was a loaded question, that's why.
One of the first things I'm seeing is I'm seeing a tremendous uptick in commission concessions to try to buy the favor of the client to do the deal. So what I mean by that, let me clarify a little bit more, is the first place an agent looks to take money from to make someone feel better about the home purchase that they're paying at this interest rate and that price is you start to look at your commission. Is that a good business practice? No. Is it your fault that they decided to buy a house? Is it your fault the house had repair items? Is it your fault that the home didn't appraise?
No.
If it's not your fault, why do you keep making it your fault by trying to give concessions to make up for it? You can't buy love, but you can't buy happiness.
But you can rent it.
But you can rent it.
So
I'm seeing that issue happen a lot.
that's an ongoing problem that just infuriates me all the time. Even in the hottest market, agents were sending commission instructions, giving their commission to their clients, and I'm just like, I don't get this. Why do we do this? And there's no other business in the world, no other business where they just voluntarily give up their income. Hey, I worked 40 hours this week, why don't you keep 10 hours and I'll just take 30? It doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
So I didn't catch on because I see that all of the time and it just ticks me off.
So the other thing I noticed that happened is that repair concessions. So when it was a seller's market and the seller will say, hell no, I'm not gonna do anything else to this house, buy or don't, we didn't have as many issues. We had issues still, but now that there's some delta of negotiation, I've seen a major uptick in concessions in repairs, where people are like, oh wait, we really want to discuss this. The seller will or won't do something. The buyer does or doesn't want something. Could the buyer cancel? And so we've seen uptick, I think, of cancellations because of inspection issues, because there's more options in the marketplace. And that's still a sales thing that we have to work through.
I'll tell you, the thing I see most right now is upset sellers. Sellers calling wanting to get out of the contract because you guys didn't sell it in 3 days like you promised. Because they saw that on Facebook and you've been selling homes at. So now they've been on the market for a week and a half, 2 weeks. And why is my home selling? The agent's not doing anything. Why do they think you guys aren't doing anything?
Lack of communication.
Communication
Lack
is
of
the key.
communication.
You have to talk to them through this process. Even if you have nothing to share with them, even if you had no showings, you should call them and say, we had no showings this week, but these are the things that we did. I promoted it in sales meeting. I put a sign up. We got it on the MLS. It's on Zillow. It's on Trulia. It's on all these sites. You've got to continually tell them what you're doing. Because the seller, what the seller thinks you do is what they see. Open houses, right? The MLS, showings, a sign, they see that stuff. But what you really do is what you tell them that you do. You've got to share with them everything. And if you communicate with those sellers, you're going to have happier sellers. You're going to keep those listings longer without having to give them back, which is a good thing because it generates more sign calls, more buyer leads, more everything else. And those buyers that call you are the ones that are serious. And so you're spending less time buying leads and everything else because now you have inventory that can help you generate that stuff. So even though listings are selling slower, it's still the name of the game, but you have to learn how to service your seller correctly.
Any other issues that you're seeing from a broker standpoint that they need to know about and prepare for?
Lawsuits.
Oh, please share on that.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to tell you right now, there's a lot more people complaining, there's a lot more people unhappy, and there's a lot more people that threaten to sue, and there are a lot more people that are suing for stupid reasons. You don't have to do anything wrong to get sued. So just know that. So the best way to keep from doing that, again, is communication, staying in the process and staying engaged. Just know, I mean, we're dealing with two lawsuits now, and both of them, the agent really didn't do anything wrong. One was he just listed a property. Just listed a property, and the person that signed it is the person that's been on title for 6 years. Got sued. Okay? So just be conscious that people are very irritable, people are very antagonistic, and there are a lot of people that aren't being very nice out there right now, but communication is the right way to handle it. And bring us in quick. Don't let things fester. If you think something's getting out of control, contact one of us so we can help you.
Yeah, so I had an incident where I actually told Chris in the lunch space, and there was a big concern that I had where the seller agreed to fix A, B, and C items, and they failed to perform. And they did not do the repairs. The inspector came out 3 times. I was paying the negative to my buyers, and my buyers asked me to do extension until they sell it. When I sent that email, it was a mistake, and I did not know I was making mistakes until Chris brought it up to me. When I made the addendum, which the seller first refused to sign, I noticed that I was out of contract. I didn't even know that. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 8 years now. And not only that, when I got involved, and if the buyer actually wanted the house after sending my email, I could have been part of the big problem or legal issue. So after they signed the addendum, which they did at the end, the seller still did not do the work that they signed on a binding agreement. And my buyer said, well, I explained to him the choices verbatim, just like Chris told me, and I'm so thankful you got involved because I ended up making it very clear and in writing, where the buyer says, I'm gonna go ahead and purchase the home, and I know now my legal rights, they signed this, I'm not giving any legal advice, but I said, you guys have a binding agreement, so you guys can seek counsel if you like. go to any attorney you'd like to speak to. I'm not gonna get involved, it's either you want it or take it. So they send me an email, so go ahead, release it to record within the agreement, within the extension period, and they did release, and they're happy. Yes, I may end up, yeah, that probably goes back to, I said to them, I will help them with some sort of like service fee up to X amount of dollar for that one of the repairs, which I thought.
Confessions of a real estate agent.
Right, so I feel bad, but.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, don't get in the, don't become the problem, you're right, but here's one thing that I'm learning from this too, is what we see out there is the market shift, the first people that agents blame is who? No, their broker, I need to change companies because something's not right, and I'm not getting what I need and stuff like that, but this is the time you need to lean in closer to your broker. We're here to support you and help you. A broker is here to help you make more money, keep you out of trouble and that kind of stuff. That's what we're here for. Let's work on a business plan. Let's work on a plan to get you there. Let's work on some accountability. Now's the time to step up and be closer. Don't be looking for different things. Utilize the resources that have been around you forever that you haven't necessarily needed, but you need them now.
Right, so just to be clear, Chris never told me to contribute anything.
He never would.
No, he never would. But he did tell me to just be careful. You don't want, basically, in other words, you don't want to be walking on eggshells, because if something goes wrong, and it looked like we will be going through some legal stuff with the seller, and I have nothing to do with it, and the listing agent even agrees that if this goes to court, she'd be more than happy to send all the text messages from the seller.
Let's just, yeah, you're good. Let's just go from there.
Right.
But just utilize, bring us in early if there's an issue or anything so that we can help you through the process.
What I learned from that was that if you need Chris's help, you have to get him in a lunchroom.
I just happened to be there.
If it wasn't for that, they would have probably collapsed and I wouldn't know what to do. But
Well, we're here to help, always.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So, last thing I want to say on this, and kind of piggybacks on what you said, don't be the source of the issue, be the solution, right? And so, it's not your fault if something doesn't go the way it was planned, but that's why we have a process. That's why we have paperwork in place. That's why we have company procedures in place to say that this is what we need from you. That's why it's important that your file be turned in correctly, that you be doing the right things at the right time, but it's all for the defense of that. And down the road, I'm not afraid of the word lawsuit unless it personally names me, right? When someone threatens the word lawsuit in a real estate transaction, it actually says right in your ICA agreement that you as an agent will never at any point threaten a lawsuit, including yourself and the brokerage, because everyone knows that when the word lawsuit comes up, the only person that makes money are the attorneys, right? No one has ever left a lawsuit completely happy. Okay? And so that's the whole thing. If you hear that on the other side, if that's the mentality of the agent on the other side, bring in your broker so that we can bring in their broker who would understand what we're talking about. We're going to go in a different direction. And so this question came up the other day, and it's a good one that piggybacks on something that Brandon said. And it says, how often should I recommend to my clients a price reduction if their home is sitting stale on the market?
Every day.
What do you think? You said every day?
Yeah.
Okay, well, so here's the thing, I want to throw out a little caveat. First, I signed a price reduction last night, as a matter of fact. And the agent sent it through, she had the seller's signature, she had her signature. I signed it, but it was only for $500.
Oh.
What?
I'm serious. So if you're going to suggest a price reduction, make it worthwhile or feasible. But I think it depends, generally speaking, depending on the market, and the market has changed from what it was 2 months ago. I would say if you go 10 people or 2 weeks, 10 people without an offer, or 2 weeks with no showings, your property's overpriced. That's kind of my ballpark rule of thumb. But then I also would back up whatever I'm bringing to them when I'm asking for a price reduction with this is what has gone on the market in the past 2 weeks, this is what's gone under contract in the past 2 weeks, and this is what has closed in the past 2 weeks.
So, your price reductions start when you first meet with your sellers, right? You should have had that conversation with them because we don't know what the hell the price is. Comps today are in the rearview mirror. That's why the government's going to overshoot the interest rate because they're looking at what has happened versus what is going to be happening. So you need to have that set up at the very front so that they know what's going to happen, and we're going to try the market, we're going to see it at this price. If we don't get showings, if nothing's happening with people coming through, then we need to reevaluate, and, it's going to be their decision, right? We manage the process, they make the decisions, but you need to set that up when you talk to them at your listing presentation, and that's, will make sure that you don't have the issues that so many people have about being pissed off at their real estate agent because they lied to them.
I think it depends on two things. One is, what is your seller's motivation? And that's gonna go back to your original consultation when you meet with them, just like Tom just said, by the way, that's called a marketing plan. You guys know that when you talk to them about what the plan is and how to sell it, it's called a marketing plan. Put that at the top of your paper, slide that across the table, tell them what your plan is, and get them to buy into how you intend to look at a property to decide if it needs a price reduction or not. Janet had a great plan. That's a great marketing plan. 10 people, 2 weeks, we're gonna talk about doing a price reduction. If you talk about it up front, it's not a surprise. They're less pissed off when it happens. And I think it also depends on seller motivation. I have a listing right now. The seller has absolutely zero motivation to lower the price. Doesn't care how long it sits there. It's a rental, he's collecting rent. It doesn't matter. It's gonna be what it is. He's gonna sell it or he's not. I've got other people that live in Colorado now who literally are like, we'll take whatever you can get us, let's lower the price by $50,000, we need to sell this house. Like, we're paying a mortgage and rent. So I think a lot of it has to do with what their motivation is, where they're trying to get or where they're already at. So make sure you understand and you listen to what their motivation is. And in the right situations, they'll ask you for a price reduction before you have to go actually present that to them.
I'll just say something real quick. I would just say, don't be afraid to ask for it. I mean, a lot of times these homes are sitting there and they're stagnant, and it's because the realtor is nervous about asking for the price reduction, delivering the bad news. If you update them on what's for sale, pending, closed on a weekly basis, like Todd said, if they're motivated, they're gonna come to you with the price reductions, but don't be afraid to have the conversation.
So the thing I notice about this, and this is a mindset issue completely, and I love that you said motivation. Whose money is it?
Theirs.
Why do you keep treating it like it's yours? You're upset that the price is going down because you're thinking of it as your money. Most homeowners gained 50% of their equity in the last 3 years, right? Did you give them that money?
Nope.
So is it your fault when it goes away? No, not at all, right? And so what's ironic about this is the motivation of the seller is the entire reason why you present this, but I believe you have a fiduciary responsibility to provide them with information when they make each of those decisions. And so every time I get a client that says, hey, we know that we haven't had the showings we wanted, we know that things aren't going the way we want, we're looking at reducing the price, I say, fantastic, let me go and pull the most recent comps so I can show you exactly what's gone on in the last 2 days. Because does things happen in 2 days? Do people list homes in the neighborhood? Do people reduce prices? Absolutely. And so if you're not giving them any information on the market, are you doing the most that you can to support their decision? The answer is no. And so I always like to do that. It's one step. I mean, even if I pull it up on the screen and I take a photo of it and say, here are the current comps, I can get it on my phone right now, which is really cool. Thank you guys for that, leaders of the association. But I can get it on my phone and just send them a quick thing to say, hey, this is the difference this makes. What do you want to do? I have a client that came back the other day and said, I want to drop $20,000. And I said, are you sure? And his wife said, yeah, are you sure? And he said, well, I just think that will get you really aggressive. And we said, yeah, and she'll probably beat the hell out of you. And so maybe we want to look at the comps a little bit more. And then when they looked at them, they corrected their decision, dropped it $10,000. But the whole point is, it's not me to fight the battle, it's them. And I gave them the information to do it. I've had clients reduce every 3 or 4 days because they're aggressively motivated to sell the house. And I've had others like Todd's where they wouldn't reduce if the comment hit. Okay, and so a couple of other questions we have, and we're going to go on to.
We have a question back there.
Oh, just a quick question. What about when the comps are, supporting the price and they don't want to lower the price? Because the comps are too high.
Yeah, and so that's a great question. She said, what if the comps already support the price that I'm at? and they don't want to reduce anymore because it's already at those comps. Okay, and so it comes back to the question that we asked initially, what is the motivation to originally sell the house? Well, I have to be in Texas because my job starts in 45 days. Okay, are you prepared to carry both mortgages? If the answer to that question is no, then do the comps matter anymore? No, because I can't carry both mortgages and I'm either going to lose one of the houses.
It's an
Say again?
investment property, and
Okay.
they have a lot of money, so it's like,
Do they have it liquid?
they're paid it out, you know.
Okay. And so the whole thing is on that motivation, if there's no motivation to reduce the price because there's no issues, you're not going to reduce the price. But the question is, Mr. Seller, how long are you ready to go until we get some action and activity? Because the problem is, at the end of the day, 3 days down the road or 5 days down the road when they still don't have any offers, who are they going to blame? Are they going to blame themselves or are they going to blame you? And if you've asked all the questions and made all of the inroads to find out, they can't blame you because you gave them the opportunity.
Here's the other thing though.
It's your job as an agent to understand where the market's going. And you should be following that trends to be able to explain that. Just because things sold 4 or 5 months ago at this price, does not mean that's where we are today. The median sales price has dropped 3 months in a row, and then it's stayed level here. But it's our job to understand where that's going, so we can educate them on what's happening in the market. And then ultimately, it's their decision what they want to do. And we don't have to take it personal. The big thing is you had the conversation. If you've had the conversation, then it's their choice, and you don't have to take responsibility for their decision. They do. Right, Angela?
Have these difficult conversations on the phone. Don't get bad news on an email or a text. Pick up the phone and call your clients, call your sellers, and that's what they're hiring us to do. And then follow up to them and follow with an email, and then follow up with an email.
So Angela said that, for the people at home that couldn't hear, that Angela said don't have these conversations via text and email. Pick up the phone and call your client and share with them the information, because no one likes to get bad news in a text. You know, most of the litigations I see that start out that way are usually by nasty texts that were very nice when they started. You know, like the beginning text was like, hi, how you doing? How's the family? Blah, 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 blah. And by the end, it's like, I hope you all burn, you know? It just kind of deteriorates over the course of that time.
Not to mention everything is misconstrued.
Exactly. And you know, there are some tactics as a broker where conversations start on the phone and they're reiterated in writing so that we clarify what was said. And then there gets to a point where someone becomes so belligerent that you have to have it in writing to protect yourself. Doesn't mean that you can't share the news though in person, which I think that's a sales tactic, right? To sell them on it. Okay, I got this question the other day, and I'm going to ask the audience and the brokers, what marketing tactic bring the most people to a home?
Most value?
Most people.
Most people. Food.
Food, okay. So if I just promote the fact that there's food at my listing, people will come. If you build it, they will come.
It's your listing or like an open house?
Okay, let me read it one more time. One more time for those at home. What marketing tactic bring the most people to the home?
Pictures.
Okay, pictures? Why do you say pictures?
I mean, if you use a good photographer and you take great photos of the house, like, and it's priced correctly, like, people are gonna want to see it.
The pictures are so amazing, you can smell Tad's food cooking on the stove.
Incentives.
Okay, incentives like what?
Well, in this market, I think I'm gonna I'm gonna talk to you after this.
Is that a threat?
My name is Tagular, not Todd, so it's not a threat.
Okay, so you said incentives.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've seen out there lately is the differing of bonus structures in the MLS for the co-ops, right? And so that is something that I've seen, but that brings the agent with the people. But what else? What else would bring, because this is questions sellers are asking their agents. No one's shown my house. I haven't seen anyone come by. What tactics bring the most people to my home, and what are you doing to sell homes that bring people to them?
The right price.
Okay, so the right,
Champagne.
I saw a listing in the MLS for $1. I don't know how many people were out front of the house, but I had $5 ready to buy 2, right?
It made the phones ring.
It did make the phones ring.
That was annoying though.
That's why they make the phones ring.
Come on, tell me. No, I haven't heard one though that's like brought the masses. Other than food. I may show up for food. I'm not going to say I would. If I'm your seller right now and I say, what are you going to do to bring a bunch of people to my house? What's your answer?
No parties.
A party, okay. Not a bad idea, by the way, a party. Like, we've seen broker opens that have brought in a tremendous amount of agents. Do consumers think agents sell homes? Yes, that's why we hire you, right? So that's not a bad idea, bringing those agents in to view properties. It used to be a very big staple of our business to do broker opens on a regular basis when there was a ton of inventory, because it made my home stand out. Do you want your home to stand out? Yeah. What's like a broker open?
Wow.
Okay, I'm not just saying open houses because it makes the house open. There's high impact open houses. The whole thing though is, if I pay you 7% of my $600,000 house, that's $42,000, and not one person comes to view my home, did you earn any of that money?
No, because I haven't sold it yet.
We're seeing that, right? How do you promote your open house that's different? I know you do a great open house. What have you done in the past? Put it in the MLS?
Well, yeah, promoting it on the MLS, but also promoting it on social media and
Yep.
emailers and door knocking and all
Will
that.
people show up because you post something on Point?
Yeah.
Right? Does that make a difference?
Yeah.
It does. Will real estate agents show up because you post something on Point? Sometimes, right? She has a lot of real estate agents that like it. When I say put in the MLS, you guys do know that there's a feature in the MLS that tells consumers every single weekend or weekday when open houses are occurring at that listing. Does everybody know that?
Yes.
And so you can actually go on there and put in that that house is being held open. I noticed that with the 6 or 7 Janet went to, probably only 1 or 2 actually did that. And that's driving traffic from the major aggregators that are actually promoting it. Zillow takes that feed and promotes open houses online, right? But what else? What else is driving people to your home? I mean, if you had, I'm gonna give you $10,000 a day, get 20 people to come to an open house day, what the hell would you do?
Threaten them?
Ask for proof of funds? A drawing, okay. So I hear this a lot. I'm gonna give away a free Cadillac, right? It's from 1986, but it's a free Cadillac to you. There's a lot of things out there like that. You gotta be very careful as a real estate agent participating in games of chance, because you could actually lose your license for that. So I didn't know that. I had a real estate administrator that told me that games of chance are not allowed. Now there's a lot of carve-outs for that, small drawings, donations, things like that. But they are allowable in some ways. Just make sure it's not gambling, right? Suggestions?
I just wanted to elaborate on that. Teresa, Tiffany Banks, who is the NDR attorney, addressed that at the state convention. And she said, call it a drawing.
For a free Cadillac?
Not a raffle, a drawing.
What else? Anything else that would bring someone to your home?
Door knocking.
Oh my God, thank God he's a broker and he finally said it.
No, she said that.
That's what you said.
She said that, yeah.
You said you were
She
right?
said it too.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
We both said.
Why'd you repeat what she already said?
I didn't hear her say it.
Why is door knocking
She
bring
said.
people to a house? Wheels on the bus. Why does door knocking bring people to a house?
Because they're nosy.
Because they're nosy. Do nosy people buy things?
Yes.
Yes, they do. When a builder builds a house, they build multiple of them, and you go door knocking in the neighborhood, you say things to people like, hey, this is the perfect opportunity to tell your family that there's a home available in the neighborhood where they can live next to you. There's a perfect opportunity to tell your friends and family about this property. I went back to my seller and said, listen, I door knocked all 185 homes in your community and told every one of your neighbors about your home. Would you think I earned some of that money you're paying me?
Yeah, of course.
Would that drive some traffic that wouldn't have happened unless I did it? I need to stand out in a market like this, because if I'm not doing these things by standing out, will they select me again when the home doesn't sell?
Negative.
No. Will they believe I'm doing everything I can when I ask for the price reduction? No. So I've got to do these things to show them that I'm actually working for the money, right? I'm in it to win it with.
I would also add that on the open houses, which I think are very, very important, you've got to be doing multiple days in a row. Like these pop-up 25-minute open houses that people are, they're not going to work in today's market. All right? Did they work back in the market when, 3 people walked down the street and bought 2 houses? Yes, but that doesn't happen. That's not the market.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do 2 to 3 open houses in a row, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 in a row, 4 hours at a time, because people see it on the first day, they don't have time to go. They see it on the second day and go, oh, I wish I had stopped by, and on the third day, they're finally gonna stop there. We held an open house, Kathy, you were at that open house, 3 days in a row,
3 days in a
right?
row.
Had nobody show up on the first
It was
day.
not on the MLS on Thursday.
Well, that wasn't our fault. We fixed that. The second day, we had a person show up, and the last day, we had several people show up, and there were leads, and 2 of them were being pre-qualified. Yeah, so I'm telling you that you've got to do multiple days in a row, stop these one day, oh, I did an open house on Thursday, why don't I have any buyers? That's the biggest problem I have in my office. Agents walk in and go, I'm doing everything I can do. I held an open house for 4 hours on Thursday, and I didn't get a single person come through. Really?
So, okay, this
Can I just
actually,
elaborate on that real quick?
No.
go ahead.
I just want to say it'll be on the November calendar, probably the first week in November. Angela and Jason from Prosperity Lending are going to team up for a lunch and learn on how to do a profitable open house.
It's a great idea.
But one thing before you go though, is you don't have to hold an open house and knock doors. You can still make calls and you still knock the doors and you still do aggressive prospecting, even if there is an open house. An open house makes it easier because you have a reason to be at the door, but you need to start doing some of the aggressive prospecting stuff, stop hanging behind the passive stuff, and take control of your business, because it also gives you the ability to go to that seller and tell them what you've done to show that you're in that commission.
So I live in Silverstone Ranch, and this weekend, Silverstone's been promoting it for about 2 months. They have their massive community yard sale, right? And usually when I find out there's a community yard sale in my neighborhood, I lock all the doors, I shut all the blinds. But what was really funny is there's 2 listings on the main street leading in my community, and 2 different companies, 2 different agents. And the first agent took complete advantage of the fact that there is a community full of people at 5 a.m., right? It started at like, I think 6 o'clock or something they had from, who starts something at 6 o'clock, right? On a Saturday. Anyway, this agent had his open house signs and everything out, already set up, saying that he's having an open house, because what do the people look for when they're going to yard sales? They look for good stuff early in the morning. And so he had his sellers ready with the home open, and everyone was stopping by that open house because he had his sellers out in the garage selling their crap, and he was inside selling the house, right? And he had at least 100 people come through this open house.
Wow.
7 doors down was another agent from a different company who had nothing going on. And I noticed, which is really funny, because the Sunday after, that agent decides it's the perfect time to hold an open house, not one car was parked outside. And so it's about thinking through the process of what's most effective for my client. The other thing I noticed is I took the opportunity to start going around and meeting the neighbors in my neighborhood, because when you have money in your pocket and they have junk in their yard, it's the perfect kind of meet cute, right? You guys know what a meet cute is? It's when the movie where someone meets somebody and it happens just out of the, okay. And so I'm telling you right now, if your community does not have a community garage sale, go to your HOA and become the organizer of it, because it'll bring you every neighbor in your neighborhood. And what do people do before they decide to sell their home? They sell all of their crap they don't want to take with them, right? So keep it in mind. Anything else you guys want to add to that? We got 2 quick topics to go. I have a referral out of state, and I can't find an agent, I don't know one. What should I do?
Why is this so hard?
I don't know, but it comes up every day on Facebook.
I know, we have a referral network. It's referrals, with an S,
With an S.
at signaturenv.com. Just send in a name and phone number, and an agent that your client is looking for will contact them from wherever, and you do nothing else, and you get a 25% referral fee for making one email.
So I want to clarify this a little bit more, because it drives me crazy. Every day on Facebook, almost, I see some agent that says, on our Facebook page, hey, do we have anyone in California? Do we have anyone? Yes! We have someone in every single city and state across America, or the North American continent, some in South America, and yes, in Europe, right? So we can help you anywhere, and the benefit to you is, if you use the program within the company, we will track the referral for you in its entirety. You will get weekly updates on what's going on with that sale, and the best part is, when that check comes back into the company, there will be no additional fees taken out of that check if it's placed with us. If you don't place it with us, then you're subject to your ICA in the terms of that split. And so please stop asking the question if you already know the answer. Referrals@signatureNG.com. All right, last question on here, and this is one that came up yesterday. Should I ever allow an agent from a company outside of Signature to market my listing in any way?
Yes. Why?
Tell me what you feel.
I wouldn't, because we've got plenty of agents here that can market it, and you have another broker that's sitting in your seller's open house, not representing them at all. You shouldn't allow someone else from another company to hold your broker opens. Now, on the flip side, if you're an agent, you have no open houses, should you ask another broker if you could, yes.
That's what I mean, that's what I mean, except holding an open house with Sarah.
Just calm down,
Yeah.
don't get mad.
Easy.
No,
Go ask for price reductions.
This is strictly my opinion, I don't think you should have other companies sitting in our houses for sale.
Yeah, but theirs is good, right?
Anybody else?
Well, if your seller's gonna allow open houses and you're not doing them, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, go do the open house. That's what we're talking about today, right? How to make money in the last quarter of the year, because it's gonna be flat, and everyone's mad about the interest rate, and everyone's mad about the market. Guys, if your sellers are allowing open houses, why aren't you doing them? That would be my question. If anybody calls me and says, can we do an open house on your listing? My first question is, well, I'm pretty sure we're already doing one, and if we're not, we're gonna be doing one in a few minutes, because that's what we should be doing as the listing agent of the property.
Do the frickin' work. Why would you allow some other agent to come into your listing, right, and have them become friends with your client,
Yes.
so that, guess what they're doing? They're setting themselves up so that when it doesn't sell, because you're not doing the open house, they've done the work that you should have been doing, and they're gonna get your listing. So stop it.
I was surprised, but I think you made an interesting point. We just had this happen, actually. We just had this happen where an agent
was showing a property, saw the seller at the property, the seller engaged the agent in conversation, and the listing canceled, and guess who the new listing agent was?
Wow.
Right? And it happens, and it's not illegal, it's not unethical if the client is the one engaging the questions, but I would never put another agent with my client for 3 hours of bonding time, right? Now, what if the property is vacant? I don't know. But here's the other thing I noticed. My sign's out front, and there's a different company open house sign out in front of that. And does the community that I'm trying to make an impact in associate me with the sale, or the open house signs they saw with the sale? I'm not saying it's bad or indifferent. I do agree with some of these pieces, and I think Todd's piece was a good point. If you're not gonna do anything, somebody should, right? But I think you should be the one doing
You
it.
sold them on why they should use Signature and you to sell the house, and then you go ahead and have XYZ
Yep.
deal with it.
Makes no sense. All right, I want you to answer this last question, because I do have 4 minutes.
Well, I've got stuff to add.
Oh, yeah, so there goes the 4 minutes.
Well, wait, I still want to answer this question. My client said in their previous state, they got a home inspection on the property before they listed it for sale. Do you think it's a good idea that they get an inspection before they list the home for sale?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Yeah, no.
Ooh, it's 15 minutes, tell us why.
Well, I think a seller that gets an inspection done on a home prior to putting it on the market now knows things about the property
Yeah.
that have to be disclosed on the SRPD, and if they don't disclose something and they absolutely knew about it, then there could be problems in the future.
Well, you're gonna provide that, inspection, so now you know what's gonna be dealt with, you can fix everything prior to, so you have no surprises after the fact when they go hire somebody that you don't know to do a shoddy inspection. So I would say yes.
And all I would say with that is I don't disagree with that. What I would say with that is you need to get permission from the home inspector, that you're gonna be sharing that report in the future, because there are verbiage in many of them now that say you won't do that.
Yeah, that's true, but just make sure that anything they do discover does make it to the SRPD too.
So the reason I bring this up is because in some states, my sister-in-law lives in Washington State. In that state, it's a standard of practice from her agent who told her that all sellers get a home inspection prior to listing the property because their safe disclosure works differently. And so I bring it up because do we get sellers that live in other states that own property here? And they think things are done a certain way. And so this question came up and the agent basically had just gone with whatever they knew and said, no, don't worry about it. And it kind of dissolves the seller's belief that what you're saying is true. Because they're already told by all of their other realtor friends that it's always something that you do. And so my answer would have been, every state is different. Here are the pros and cons of doing this. We just heard the pros and cons. The pro is you're going to know all the crap that's wrong with your home that you do or don't know. You also made a good point that under the SRPD it says I'm not responsible for what I don't know. But now I am because I do know that this is broken. I found it in it. To Brandon's point, if I fix all that crap, does it make my home look better? If I disclose it all up front to somebody, am I being completely transparent and probably going to have an easier closing? Right? These things are all true, but I want you to think through the process. Don't just take whatever someone says as a fact that you dismiss. It could be something that happens in a state that they're from, and so think through that.
I've learned too, though, if somebody asks you, should I do a home inspection before?
I would just answer, I would. If they say, should I replace this carpet? I would. I mean, I never try to talk people out of something that's going to make their home more marketable or anything like that, so.
If they already know that it needs to be done, that's why they're asking the question, because they know that it needs to be done. Oh, of course you should do that, yeah, that's definitely will make it easier to sell your home, sure. I mean, paying money to go out and have responsibility later concerns me, that's all I'm saying.
I got a listing one time because I'm the only person that walked in the listing appointment out of 7 agents and told them their home looks well lived in. Because they had kids and dogs and everything else, and they said every buyer that comes in is going to say that this doesn't look that great, and it's cluttered, and there's stuff everywhere, and they're going to run out the door. You may want to address that so they have a better experience showing the house. And the wife said, wow, that's exactly what I told my husband. He didn't think it mattered. You're the only agent to say that so far. And I just smiled and took the listing. Stuff happens.
Sided with the one.
Janet.
Okay, so today, I'm a little disappointed. I had a class on, a lunch and learn on assumptions. Most of you have never dealt with an assumption. Well, I asked for RSVPs for a reason. So we know how much food to have. And guess how many RSVPs I have for my lunch and learn at 1 o'clock?
2?
4.
Oh.
4. So 4 people who RSVP'd are going to get fed fried chicken, potato salad, coleslaw. You think I'm kidding? I'm not.
Advertise the food now.
Well, it's too late. RSVP has a meeting, and we only ask for it if there's food. So please RSVP. And speaking of that, on Thursday at 11:30, I'm having a lunch and learn on Airbnb. If you want to get fed, you better RSVP with Savannah before you leave this office today. And then one other thing, Friday is the general membership meeting at the Four Seasons. I have no idea how many of you have RSVP'd,
Lunch is provided.
but I have reserved 3 tables that will have signature on it, first come, first serve.
I'm going.
But here's the rule. If somebody from another company that you've never met in your life comes and sits down at the table and it says signature and they're not from signature, you cannot kick them off. They are allowed to sit there. So first come, first serve for the 3, so I could get.
I just want to also announce that on Thursday at 8:30, we have the Political Affairs Committee meeting, and the 2 main speakers are Keith Lynham, our downtown manager, and Tom Blanchard, our Northwest manager, as the state president, legislative chairman, talking about all things state politics happening in this next session. We would love for you to come. Yeah, and I get to sit in the middle of them. I'd love for you to come and join that. It's at LDR. It's Thursday at 8:30, I believe it starts.
Don't forget about Truck or Treat, 25th. Invite your clients, your friends, your family, people you know that have kids. This is the week you should be inviting them.
Sign up to decorate your truck.
Yeah. You can leave it up all year long if you want.
Chris, did you mention my listing in 1907 Ginger Blossom, 3-bedroom incredible with pool and new spa? Did you mention that?
Yeah. Twice.
Okay. Listed under market value. Come and see me.
Please RSVP with Savannah or the Bala team for decorating your trunk and passing out candy for Trunk or Treat. Flyers are right outside the training room.
Thank you guys. Have a great week. Enjoy. Oh, appreciate you. Check out Tad's listing.
One story, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
Hard to find.
Yeah.